We are talking about something today that I think is going to be a hard truth for a lot of people to hear.
And eye-opening. I think most people don't even realize this.
No, and downplay it and think that they can out-supplement it or out-diet it or, all of the things. And I actually had a conversation yesterday with the owner of Primal Trust, which is focused on this type of work of the central nervous system. And we've had conversations with clients before of, listen, I want you to pause the program we are doing right now and work solely on nervous system work sometimes, because it's not common, but there are some people that their nervous system is so stuck in this fight or flight that no matter what we do with diet variation or anything, they're not going to get any better. It's going to be a lost cause until this is addressed. And it's why we focus this on a lot of these things within our program. It's so important. I mean, like the impact of stress on the body and on your health and your weight and all the things is so much bigger than you realize.
Yeah. And I think, as we go through this, we're going to be talking about the central nervous system and kind of like the few sides to this. I also want to say that this can be very triggering work because the body keeps score. And for some individuals, it's not something that's current. It's not something that's been really like recent. So maybe they don't connect. When their symptoms started, there was this big traumatic event. Some people can, right? They can say, I got COVID, or I had to take an antibiotic, or I was in a car accident. And then they can say, following that, this is when all my symptoms started, right? But for many people, when we think about the little T's and the big T's, the trauma, the past trauma on the body, that can go all the way back to childhood. It can go back to being in the womb. Generational traumas as well. And that's really can be like the triggering hard work. And this is why a lot of people shy away from it. They don't want to do it because it's very uncomfortable. It can bring up different and inflict different emotions. And it's just not the fluff, right? People want to talk about the fluff and they want to talk about like all the fun things. But this is really for a small percentage of the population, that we work with. And I think it stands true for everybody, but it can stand in the way as the boulder for people truly healing, depending upon the situation, right? And how long these things have gone on. And so some people just simply don't understand this because it's not often talked about, right? Or you just think you're good at handling your stress. I know, and if you've listened to this podcast for a while, Beck and I are both type A. We run the business, we have the kids, we do the gym, we got all the things, right? We take care of ourselves, we make that a priority. But that also means that, we have a lot of inputs, we have a lot of stimulus, and we kind of thrive off this adrenaline rush. I was talking to the gym owner last night, actually. He's a sheriff and he's won I don't even know how many jujitsu trophies and championships, and he fights and all this stuff. Well, then I was talking to him, he's like a cowboy and he like rides horses and he does all these competitions. I'm like, what the heck? This is so crazy. But he was recovering from this surgery that he had. And he's like, man, it's been really hard to like slow down the past 6 weeks. Cause like it was supposed to be like a minor thing that they were doing for an injury that he had. Long story short, whatever they were doing to open the muscle, like it wouldn't work. And so the nurses and like people in the operating room had to pull it apart so much that it fractured his femur. Then he almost bled out on the table. Like really crazy story, right? But this guy is a lot like us. We're like, it's so hard to slow down because we were talking about postpartum and recovery and C-section and everything. And I'm like, but it's also like what we need, And I think in these times that we are forced to slow down, because maybe your body is starting to fail you and you realize like you just can't keep up, then you really start to notice like, yeah, there's a lot of things in my day that do drive stress. Like honestly, coming back from maternity leave, I look at my days prior to going on maternity leave and I'm like having anxiety of how am I going to do that again and keep up with that again? Because it's too much, right? And Becca and I both have talked a lot about this in the formulation of our business going forward, that we can't keep doing what we were doing with the amount of calls and things that we were taking in the day and lab reviews and everything. That's why we're building a team. So I'm saying all this to say that it's okay if you're that type of person, because a lot of people are like that. It's not okay if you continue to neglect it and just be like, that's not a problem for me. It is a problem for you. You just don't realize it yet. And so we're going to try to help you realize it today. Or if you do realize it, we're going to try to help you recognize, like, how do we start to shift your system out of this? And the reason why this actually came up is because I made just like a text answer to somebody on Instagram yesterday. And she's very, very nice. She's a lactation specialist. I've had a lot of conversations with her over the course of the time off as I was dealing with mastitis and breastfeeding disastrous situation. And she said that her question was, how do you fully empty your bowels? I have trouble having time. I don't have time enough during the week to poop or something like that. And I was like, well, number one thing here is that you got to address your stress, because you saying I don't have time in the week tells me what I need to know about the fact that you aren't managing your schedule and you're probably stuck in this fight, flight, or freeze state. And I got so many messages like, what does that mean? How do I get out of it? Like, what are the other symptoms? Because I'm like, nothing that you do is going to help you if you're not recognizing the number one problem here. And that is that you don't have time to poop. What do you mean you don't have time to poop? That's like saying I don't have time to brush my teeth. I don't have time to shower. I don't have time to eat. Like, all these things are really, really important. So that's what we're going to dive into today, the central nervous system. And let's give just like a broad overview here, because we have this parasympathetic and we have a sympathetic. Parasympathetic is your brakes, right? So this is where you rest, you digest, you relax, you get silent, you meditate, you pray, you're working on just chilling the F out. Then you have your sympathetic, which is like your gas pedal. It's go time, sister. Like, let's do all the things all the time. Very much like Becca and I live in this state a lot, okay? I'm not saying that we don't have our own issues with this, but this is your fight or flight response, right? This is protection. It's how you are going to survive. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. It's your knee-jerk response to keep you safe, right? To move out of the way of getting hit. And your adrenal glands are very activated in this time. We want balance here, right? We are designed to go back and forth, and honestly go back and forth quite a bit. But for most people, they let this sympathetic state really take over. And let's paint that picture. I wake up in the morning. I'm just going to paint the picture for myself right now, because I'm a total open book here, right? We wake up in the morning. Right now, I got to get up. I got to feed. I got to clean all the bottles from the overnight feedings. I got to worry about my 5-year-old getting out of the door to school on time, make sure that he's dressed. He actually wears underwear to school, all the things, get his lunches packed. Then I got to think about work. I got to think about myself, right? Wash my face, get myself ready. Okay, so I'm going. And then I'm sitting down and now I'm trying to work, but the baby's crying because he's hungry. And so then I got to do that, right? But my mind's over here. And so you're just going. And this cycle can go on all day long. And then there's not really a time to rest until it's like, okay, maybe 9:00 at night. And maybe at that point in time, people don't even take the time to rest, or they don't have a partner that can help them. And so they don't ever really intentionally do this, or aren't really able to do this. And so that is at a very, very high level, the central nervous system. And I think just by painting that picture, you can see how a person becomes stuck. They feel tense. They have anxiety. They feel like they're locked down with their bowels and they're not emptying them. Mm-hmm. They can't lose weight, right? There's a lot of things that can go into this. So very high level, I'll let Becca talk about all the symptoms that can arise from this. But just with that, I want you to really think about, for you in your day, where do you pause? Where do you create stillness? Where do you rest? Where do you breathe?
Yeah. And, the other things that we also think about are like, what happens in that rest and digest state, right? Like, it's where you get your libido, your sex drive, right? That's where you are able to sleep. That's where you are able to digest your food and break things down and absorb them. And a lot of people that we talk to struggle with those 3 things alone. And so I know without any further information that this person is stuck in this chronically stressed state. And the way that I think about it, and it's always helped me kind of evaluate it, is like, imagine your rest and digest and your fight or flight systems as these 2 little buckets that both need equal amount of coins in them, right? And when you are not sleeping enough, when you are not eating enough, when you are not sitting down to eat, or you're not eating in a relaxed state, when you are going to the gym and doing all the things, you're using all of your coins that you have in that stressed out bucket. And your other bucket, that rest and digest, gets nothing. Like, what in your day are you doing that is supporting that other bucket? When are you doing deep breathing? When are you getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep? When are you going for a walk outside without your cell phone or scrolling Instagram or whatever it might be? Like, when are you doing the things that are supporting that other system? And we wonder why we are hot messes, guys. Like, you're never supporting that calming system. And then we have all the symptoms. You have increased heart rate. You feel like your heart's beating out of your chest. You feel like you're shaking and you're not doing it. You're just sitting at your desk. You have muscle tension. Why does my neck always hurt? Why do I always have headaches? Rapid breathing, difficulty concentrating. You're the squirrel. I know everyone knows that reel of like me going through my house and being like, I need to go mail this letter. But then I see my purse is sitting up here. Why is my purse over there? I need to move that. And then I see the laundry that's not folded. I need to go fold that laundry. Then I see this stain on the ground. Now I need to clean this stain. We know that cycle. Everyone knows that cycle. I know that cycle. God, that's how I go through my day to day. Like, you feel on edge. You have digestive issues. You're gassy. You're bloated. You know, I again, perfect reason right now, I scroll social media too much. I think of the reels of like the guys talking about every guy that has his hot girlfriend knows they have digestive issues. They know that she's bloated. They know that she can't poop. They know that she's dealing with gas, like, because she's always the stressed out one. Insomnia. You're irritable. You snap at your kids. You can't handle your husband's breathing. Like, difficulty making decisions. You're overwhelmed constantly. Whenever someone asks you, how are you? And you're like, oh, I'm so busy. That's your answer, right? That is your answer right there. You have physical sensations. You're cold all the time. You're tingly, numb. Your body is literally in this heightened state of alert. It's like, what's going on? Where is everything? What's happening? You're just sitting there. You're just sitting there at your desk at work. But your body internally is like, what the F? And that is why you're dealing with all of this stuff. You guys, it's not a threat outside. It's inside. It's your mind. And it's getting that to slow down to be able to balance things back. And guess what's going to happen when you start doing this? You're going to feel worse. You're going to feel more tired. You're going to have probably more symptoms, more brain fog, because you are so used to dopamine being up here. It's way up high. You need this much dopamine. And when you try to reset it, it doesn't feel like enough. You literally feel like you're dying. That is what resetting your dopamine receptors and resetting the nervous system feels like at first. You have to sleep more. You wake up and you're not rested. And you're like, I'm trying to slow down and I feel worse. Yep. That's what it feels like at first. And honestly, it's probably going to feel like that for about 3 to 4 months while your body resets itself. And while it realizes the analogy that I give that I think is so impactful is, think about running a marathon. Your body's going to keep up throughout the marathon. And as soon as you finish that marathon, how does your body feel? Like you got hit by a freaking truck. Because that marathon in your life has been the last 10 years of you not calming down. And now the body's like, oh, I can finally breathe. Now I'm going to let them feel all the shit that they've been doing to me. I'm going to cause aches and pains. I'm going to cause brain fog because it can't keep up. And it's finally gotten the chance to recover and slow down so you feel worse.
Yeah. Or you get sick because your immune system's finally like, okay, now I can actually fight the infection that's been underlying here for so long because I've gotten energy. We see this a lot when people go on trips. And they get, time to rest and chill. And then all of a sudden they come home and they get sick. And so I think that while we grind, right, we go through our day to day, we feel like we're superwoman. The reality is, like, again, it should be more of like a short-term time frame. And postpartum is that time. I would say for sure, certain people who have, let's say, accountants with tax season, right? You have a demanding job. We actually just talked about this with Vince, our mentor, because we were talking about a method called the 3-in-1, like where you're sprinting, but then you have to have that downtime. It can be 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 months on, 1 month off, whatever that looks like, an 8-and-2, whatever it is for the person that is doable for them, that also feels good. Because if it doesn't feel good to you, then you're more stressed out about trying to de-stress, right? So you have to kind of find this, like for me, I was like, oh, okay, I like this 3-in-1 concept. Maybe coming back postpartum, it'll be like a 3-in-1 in terms of like, I can have 3 days that I'm kind of working in clinical calls and podcasting and everything. And then 1 day has to be like a rest following, or, something along those lines that makes it feel like I am giving myself that time, because in my day to day, like I'm not really getting that time. I'm trying to be more intentional about it, and definitely deep breathing, walks in nature, those things help me. Those are my things. I also cook. I also listen to Christian music. And I try to do a lot of that, honestly, when I'm like getting ready in the morning, because that is something that, you know, my husband's great about. Like, I'll get the kids settled and I'll do my skincare and I'll do my makeup. I got to get, you know, this time to myself to be put together. And that's not what I would say is the best scenario, but it is the scenario in my life right now. And so I'm in those moments doing what I can to take advantage, right? In terms of that deep breathing and just like, oh, nobody is screaming for the next 3 minutes at me, right? Or if they are, they're not my problem. So what is this like mechanism in the body? So we're talking about all these symptoms, but like, why is this so important? Well, we have a gut-brain axis. The gut has accesses with everything, right? And there was a really interesting study actually done like out of Harvard University where they're looking at the physiological and social stress. We haven't even touched on social stress. What about all the fucking pressure to be perfect, to show that you have this beautiful family and everything is just, you know, picture perfect on social media, that nobody is ever struggling with things or, you know, it's just always put together. That's not true. You always feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses, right?
I thought about that this morning. Just quick tangent. I was like walking down the stairs with Taylor, screaming, grabbing onto me. She gets really clingy in the morning and she was walking facing me. Poor thing. She was walking back to the door facing me. And I was like, Taylor, watch out for the door. Turns around, bam, face into the door. And then she like wouldn't leave me alone. And I'm walking downstairs. My hair is half curled, half up, no makeup on, in my pajamas still, trying to get the kids ready to get out the door. Taylor's screaming. I'm trying to get the laundry upstairs. And I was like, my life is fight or flight because of my screaming child. That just... like, no wonder I'm always stressed out. I have this beautiful little human that just needs me constantly. And so like moms, this is talking to you specifically too right now. Not saying this doesn't affect other people, but I think those first 3 to 5 years of humans' lives that they are so dependent on you is a huge time where moms just get so stuck in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, so then you're compiling on all of these other like I should this, I should that, right? Like this could be keeping up the Joneses. Like you talked about with the Valentine's Day thing. I'm sitting here thinking, fuck the Valentine's Day cards. Like we might do the cake pops. We might not. We might just buy some store-bought shit. That's okay this year, right? But we place these on ourselves essentially, like especially as females. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to keep up with other people. But the reality is that most day we're running around our house with our hair on fire and like half dressed half the time. Like that's literally what I've been doing, you know, like I might have a robe and some underwear on, but like, you know, it's just the name of the game, but that's not what it looks like or appears like because social media is such a highlight reel. So then other people get this thought of like inferior. And so the social stress, the psychological stress, the physiological stress all really has an impact on our gut. And when you become so stressed to trigger this fight or flight so long, you get stuck in this freeze. Like it's really, really hard to get out of it. And so digestion slows down. You know, you're having reduced blood flow to the gut. Think about this. If you're driving, right, and there is a threat to you, your body at that moment in time is in the flee state. I got to get out of the situation. I get back to safety. It is not at all concerned about the meal that you had 30 minutes later, getting all the amino acids broken down so that you can beautifully absorb them to build the muscle that you stimulated in the gym this morning from strength training, right? No, it is like, F that, I've got to save you here. And so blood flow is pulled away from the gut, right? It is more into how you act and getting your adrenaline pumping, right? And your ability to like, think about, they always say if you were like a car fell on you and your child was under, you know, whatever, you would all of a sudden be able to lift that up, right? You have to get out of that situation. So you have to take these massive actions and you're, you know, stronger in those situations. So anyways, blood flows pulled away from the gut, your muscle contractions for motility, peristalsis, moving food through the digestive tract, definitely out the window. And so now you're stuck with like bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, whatever. Your pancreas is not producing digestive enzymes. And so therefore that's impairing digestion and proper absorption. Obviously chronic stress, we know, creates a lot of dysbiosis. And so For many of you, you're like, maybe this is starting to make sense. And a lot of this goes back to what I talk about with pooping hygiene. Because again, we're going back to the question here. What she said is like, I don't have enough time in the week to poop. You're not going to if you're chronically in this state and you're not even giving yourself time. Colon cleansing time is 5 to 7 in the morning. You need to be in that chill mode for your body to send you the signals. For some individuals, it's going to be opposite. You're going to get massive diarrhea, maybe incontinence, you have accidents, right? It's going to like push right through you. But most people get so locked up and they're like bound up that's why they create so much dysbiosis and gut issues and everything. So you got to support this. And so how do we do that? We're not going to sit here and tell you that we are the best woo-woo at this shit because we're not. It is very intentional. And again, we have to think about what feels right for us because we don't want this de-stressing work to be more stressful to you. I'm going to first say we have 7 tactical tips for you, but I'm going to first say above all of this is your mindset and how you think about this. Because for a long time, I was very resistant. I was like, yeah, that's woo-woo. I don't need that. I'm good. Right. And I thought it was a waste of time. I also thought that, many people who did this, like were soft and like don't do the hard things. And I do the hard things. Right. I think for some individuals, they actually might think the opposite. They might live in a victim mentality, like, woe is me. I've had all these things happen to me. I'm never going to be able to heal. I'm never going to be able to get out of this place because my body just hates me and it's working against me. And that alone can keep us stuck because the way you speak to yourself is telling your body how to act essentially, right? And so if you're telling yourself that you're broken, you're not going to heal, you're not going to heal. And so I would really challenge you, like there are a lot of things tactically we'll give you here that can be good for you to do, but it really does start with what's between your ears, how you think about this. And so I would just encourage you, think about this as a opportunity to love yourself. I remember a long time ago, we had a girl on our podcast, we talked about skincare and this ritual. And again, this was back when I thought all this stuff was very woo-woo, but it came with a card and every serum or oil. Do you remember that? Like the cleanser, it all had like a affirmation, kind of this ritual. And you were basically, as you did the skincare routine, talking positive things into your life, into your body and your skin and all of this stuff. And again, I thought it was super woo-woo, but now I'm kind of like, there's probably a lot of power in that because I'm putting these things in my body. I'm putting things on my body. And if I can speak life into me and joy and gratitude, that's going to go a lot farther than, God, I hate aging and these wrinkles and I just am ugly and, all of these very negative thoughts. So I think mindset is very, very important here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some other actionable things that you can do, deep breathing, we talk a lot about because deep breathing is one of the main ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. And it is one of the best ways to know that you are getting into this parasympathetic state. Like it can be very hard with meditation and, perception and thought processes, but like deep breathing is one of the main ways that we know it's working. And so it's an actionable thing you can do. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 8. I do this when I'm driving in the car a lot of times because I'm like, especially if my kids aren't in the car, because if they're in the car, then they're asking me constant questions and I want to go insane. But on my way to pick up my kids in the afternoon, I almost always remember to do this. You could put up a Post-it in your bathroom and while you're brushing your teeth, right? You're trying to do this breathing process or while you're doing your face routine at night, these different times have little reminders. Your Apple Watch, we know that thing sets reminders constantly, like put a reminder in there to breathe. Cold exposure. I love cold exposure. I do it probably 3 to 4 times a week. If you don't want to do the full shower, you can start with just cold water on your face and do face dunks 3 to 4 times for 5 to 6 seconds each. Humming and singing also stimulates the vagus nerve. So love me some good singing. Gargling water activates the vagal tone as well. Gentle movement. So swap your early morning workouts for walks, yoga, Pilates, stretching. Pilates can be kind of intense for some people, but doing more restorative work instead of the constant hit. Like if I didn't sleep well, or if I'm super stressed out, or if I'm sick, you better believe I am skipping the gym that week and I'm doing more relaxing. And
she wasn't always that way.
Oh my God, you guys. I used to preach about being like, if you aren't vomiting, you can be in the gym. That was what I used to tell people.
Really?
Yes. I remember I was like, if you don't have a fever or if you don't have the flu, you can go back to the gym. Because people used to ask, and I'd be like, yeah, as long as you're not like acutely ill, you can work out. No, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You are prolonging that sickness. And I still have to remind her that sometimes now. My coach is like, Becca, stop fucking going to the gym. You're sick right now, or you're super stressed, or whatever it might be, because you are going to waste through your muscle more than you're going to build it in those situations. So gentle movement, gut nourishing foods can be really helpful. Bone broth, fermented foods, as long as you're not having like massive histamine reactions. Omega-3s can all be really helpful. Lymphatic drainage and craniosacral work. Love post-shower doing the big six, doing my big six routine, getting my lymphatic massages. Because when you train the vagus nerve, when you train the gut function, reduce inflammation, build resilience to stress, your nervous system thanks you. It can be a huge improvement. Because you guys, your lymphatic system and that system, like those are not automatic like your blood system are. The pumping of blood through your heart is something your body's going to do regardless. The lymphatic system is not. You have to get it to move properly with deep breathing, with lymphatic massages, with all of those things. Gentle movement. Because otherwise things get stagnant. And stagnancy breeds disease, breeds inflammation, breeds issues. And so if you do nothing else, support the nervous system. Like we talk a lot on this podcast about really complex things, really in-depth issues with bile circulation and with hormone imbalances and HRT and peptides and all the things. And I promise you, none of it will matter if you do not get this under control. And it's probably the most important work you will always be doing. It's something I try to teach my kids even. Like when Taylor gets really upset, when Carson gets really upset, one of the main things I talk to them, I'm like, big deep breaths. Breathe with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to teach our kids nowadays too how to regulate. I mean, like that's usually pretty innate. Kids are pretty good at doing that themselves. But in today's society, gosh, it's something that I have to remind myself to do all the time. When I'm feeling it, when I'm feeling my heart's beating out of my chest, I've had a day with probably too much caffeine and not enough food, and meetings are back to back, and there's fire drills that have to happen in the business. Like those are my reminders. Becca, stop and breathe. Because at the end of the day, and I think faith can be rolled into this too, you know, having it, even if it's not God and that's something, you know, there's something else that you believe in. I think you have to have a higher power of some form. Because if you don't, guess who it's all on? You. If you don't have a higher power, you're relying on yourself and you're never going to make it. When I'm in the darkest of dark, when I'm in the really stressful times, like, yes, I have my family, I have Liz, I have my support system, but you got to have something that you can lean on and believe in that they are going to help you guide through it. Because if you don't have that, I don't know how anyone makes it through anything hard without that. I really don't.
Or community or a great spouse partner, you know. I think we're both very, very blessed to have good marriages. I have a lot of friends that from the outside, right, I would have a lot to say about what I would do. Obviously, on the inside, it's much different. But, you know, a support system, girls that you can talk to. We were just talking about this with one of our practitioners last night. Like the work that we do is so hard. It's so challenging. If we didn't have each other, we would quit a long time ago. And some people just internalize everything. And that is a stress to the system, right? Because you just stuff. I love the beach ball analogy that we used to talk about all the time, right? You have a beach ball, you're trying to hold it underwater. You can only do that for so long. It's the same stuff here, guys. Like you can stuff, you can say, I'm okay. You can say when life slows down and things are less busy, then I'll make this a priority, whatever. But at some point in time, like there is going to be an uproar, right? You can't hold this in. And so I've said this to a handful of clients. You're going to have the perfect protocols in place. But if you're stuck in this fight, flight, or freeze state, it's going to be really, really hard and almost impossible for some people to heal, right? To have things be effective. And so you need to find community. You need to connect with your higher power, spirituality, right? For us, Becca and I are both believers in God, and He's our savior, you know, going to church, connecting with the women in your church, whatever that looks like for you, reaching out and doing a counseling session, a therapy session, like whatever you need to do to start this work. This is the hard work. This is the work that people don't want to do, that they try to avoid because they think it's woo-woo or it's not going to help them. But a lot of times when you are so chronically ill and nothing is working, this is the missing piece. And then all of a sudden it starts to unlock a lot of things for people. A very near and dear client to my heart that's just going through this right now. I told her, I don't want you to renew with me. I love you so much. I love working with you, but you need to go and you need to do this work. And through therapy, different types of therapy and emotional releasing techniques, she's now starting to feel it in her body and release illnesses that have haunted her for years. And so if you don't think that it's important, this is your warning. It's okay to be stubborn, but you can't be negligent for too long because now you have the information. And it's our job to give you the information and we will never withhold it from you. So go do some deep breathing today. Share this with a friend. If you are somebody who's like, man, this is really, really helpful. This resonated, but I also know that I need support in this journey. You can always schedule a call with our team. Links in the show notes. We are partnering with Primal Trust. We do believe that they have a great program and going to be kind of incorporating that into our program as well. So if that's you and that's something that you need, schedule a call with our team. We can chat with you about what we do and get you on a path to healing.